Alright, g'day guys. Tonight we're going to be looking at how to configure and manage campaign journals within RealmWorks. And I was going to state at the start of this video that this is a custom way to do it. There was a discussion happening on the forums, and Silverus was kind enough to come and tell us all how he did it. And I got him in, I took a look at it, and I thought, you know what, that's actually pretty cool. So some of the users asked for a video on it, and I thought I'd put this together just to show you how it's set up. I've taken the idea a little bit further and combined it with some storyboards, but let's jump over and let's have a look and see how it's done. Alright, so in front of me you can see RealmWorks running. And on the left you can see I've got a campaign journal, and what I've done here is I've created an entry for um, basically all of the sessions my players have ever run in our current campaign. We've been going for about, I don't know, 2 years now, quite a while. Um, I'm really bad at managing this stuff. I'm going to be the first to admit it. My party is generally all organised via Facebook. We have a private group where we chat and we organise games. There's a little bit of banter. There's very little actual in-character stuff. We did have some pretty crazy discussions on there at one stage, but really it's literally just a place for us to organise sessions and sort of decide when we're going to play. And the end of a game, generally what I'll do is I'll post up the summary of what happened, largely for anyone who wasn't there. Um, so I've been getting better and better at that as I become a more mature dungeon master. I've only been doing dungeon mastering now for 2 years, so it's something that I'm learning is important, so that I can go back and find out, obviously, what it is that we did on a certain session. And it's always sort of bugged me, the fact that I couldn't use RealmWorks to sort of empower a better ability there. So let's just talk about some of the things that I've done, because I've done quite a few things. Facebook, I've done the after session thing, and we've done some in-character stuff. Facebook is not great for lots of player interaction, I've found, when they're pretending to actually be characters and they're in character. Facebook gets overwhelming very quickly, because it's possible for people to be replying to things all at the same time, and your notifications are going off like crazy, which is fantastic, and we'll get back to notifications in a minute. But at the same time, it became very hard to manage all of the information that was happening at the same time, and then it became even harder to sort of go back and find it at a later point in time. Facebook is generally designed as a I'm here now and I need you to read what's in front of me now. Not so much I need to read something that occurred 6 months ago. It can be quite hard to find that information. So Facebook wasn't the ideal. I went out and tried a lot of different other online tools as well. I'd say the one that I had the most success with was Obsidian Portal, which is pretty much like an online forum board slash wiki system. Um, And I guess the thing that I really liked about that is that I could post up a session summary, and then my players could reply to it with questions they had or statements, and I could reply to them, and we could have a bit of conversation about occurred. And I found the benefit there is that really allowed that to grow other elements of the game that hadn't really been coming out. My players are very combat focused, they're not really role players. And I'll be honest, I found the online interaction was really good at bringing out the role playing aspect of my players when they're away from the table. That really sort of opened their eyes into what they could do, and they were asking different questions. So that's just an element that's unique to my table, most likely, because I have a group of people who are Warhammer 40k players and never role played in their life. They're still growing into that role. But I did find the online platform good for that, and I found Obsidian Portal to be quite good in that reference because, you literally had the ability to reply to each other. But as a dungeon master, it irritated the hell out of me that I had to use that tool. Um, and it irritated me because I had to take all the information from RealmWorks and put it into that tool. And then it irritated me even more because once I did take the information and put it into that tool, I could see that that information wasn't getting used. And I guess that's something you need to think about as a dungeon master. Do I need an online system to look up everything all the time? will my players actually use it? And that's a question I've gone back and forth with. I think the concept is great. I think it would be lovely. And I think my players would use it in certain scenarios, but not all the time, which is probably why my players have never actually used player mode on Realmworks. Um, I use it, my players don't. They're not connected to this, they don't see it. Um, and that's something that's always bugged me because there's a lot of information here, and there's a few reasons why they don't. Um, I'll be honest, it's right now probably to do with the fact that there's not a lot of laptops at the table and they can't actually run the software at the table, so therefore it's not as useful to them. But for anyone who's seen the sneak preview videos that Lone Wolf put out, they are working on a web view, and I think that's going to change this all for them, and that makes me really excited. So bring out web view. Hopefully you have the ability to display all your information to your players. Then it becomes really important for you to start, I think, having your campaign journal back in Realmworks and not in an external website like Obsidian Portal. So, as you can see, my brain's gone over this one a couple of times, and there's pros and there's cons to everything that I'm doing. But ultimately, what I really want is my campaign journal in Realmworks so that my linking works. All right, you can see if I actually click on a link here, I can see I've got a bit of a summary, I've got some pictures, and ideally I would just click these buttons here, and my players who would be using the player mode, either on a application or a web view, whatever it was, um, could basically see that information. I think that would be great. And then they could click the link and off they'd go. Um, I'll just talk a little bit more about what I think's needed there. Web tool is great, but I need a way to put it in my player's face. And by that, I mean at the end of the night, I imagine I hope I can go to the web view and grab the URL for it and post that in Facebook. Now, I know some people hate social media. I'm a believer that social media is here. I don't like the Facebook wall and all the junk that comes through it, but I really do appreciate private groups within that tool. And I appreciate the fact that everyone's using it. And that's kind of come down to your group. But if I could paste the URL for my session summary into my social media, then all of their phones are going to go ding, ding, ding. Here's your session summary, and that's more likely to get them to look at it. If they don't get that notification, my players won't look at it. They won't go looking for this information unless they're prompted. And that could just be something specific to my players. You might have a completely different situation, but that's how it is. I've tested it, I've played with the concept with different tools, and my takeaway is that players these days like a notification to say there's information here. So I'm probably just rambling on at the moment, um, but I hope it's useful sort of food for thought on where it could go. Another thing I would really like is for when I can post my URL over to people that my players can come along and respond to the information. I want them to be able to scroll down to the bottom and go, oh, fantastic, I've got a question about this. Or even at the bottom of each snippet, maybe, I don't know. Can you please da 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 da? And ideally, I would have a notification somewhere in Realmworks that says someone's got a question um, in a snippet somewhere, and I could go and have a look. And I guess in my mind, it will help me develop my world and my story better if my players are able to interact with that information. So, as I said, I've only seen the video of the web version. I'm sure you guys have all seen it too. I'm sure Rob and his team are basically looking at this, going, "Yep, I thought about this," or "No, I haven't thought about this." I don't know, but it's just my thoughts and my ramblings about it. But anyway, that's where my mind is at. I'm hopeful that WebView comes, and they're the reasons I'm hoping it comes. And with that in mind, I've made the decision to start tracking my campaign journal inside of this tool. I am still going to post it on Facebook, and I do that, but I'm going to keep a copy in here as well, so that hopefully in the future this can take over that responsibility for me. All right, so how do I do it? I use Silverus's method here. I've created a campaign journal under my events, and using my campaign journal, I can actually come in here and I can create new articles. All right, I'm using the prefix to say what order it's going in. We're playing on Sunday, so this will be the Sunday session. I've been putting my date in here, so we're playing on Sunday, which will be the 27th. All right, and I'm saving that in. Then I've got my session, and it's going in order that way, so I think that's a lot neater. I will put this is my session summary. All right, and generally what I want to be able to do, and that's going to be something that I'll get around to eventually, is put in my session date as a time or a date. All right, and then probably below that, I will probably have another calendar date for my in-game date. All right, so I'll have one date for the actual game date, and then one date obviously far in the future for my game date. Um, I know they're planning a journals functionality, or there's been some thoughts about it. So this system will probably all be replaced with something official. But for now, I think this is something that people could use to sort of do this. I like the fact that I can have pictures. You know, say something epic happens, I can come over here and I can add in the, the pictures, um, and I can make that all visible to my players as well. So I can really set this up as sort of a nice journal. Um, that hopefully my players would actually be interested in coming over and reading, maybe. I don't know. Um, and then, if they can interact with it, then we can take it further. We can answer questions, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I would just click this. All right, and then that's visible to my players. Now, one of the other things I've also been doing is taking this information and connecting it to a storyboard. So if I come over here, I've made a campaign journal storyboard. And you can see I've been going down here and I've linked all of my sessions up. And this becomes something that if you do it as you go, it's not a tedious task. I'm going to create a new plot point to connect to it. To the last session, I'm going to connect that up to the Sunday session. I can even go in and prep this ahead of time and just not make this bit visible. And then these guys can use this. Now, one of the benefits of using the storyboard system of doing this is when my party split, I can actually sort of visually indicate that that happened. All right, so here my party investigated the Sacred Stone Monastery. The monk was wearing a mask that allowed him entry, but everyone else was refused. And he thought it was a great idea to go in alone. And then the party came and assaulted afterwards, and he joined up with them. So, here we did the assault on Riverguard Keep. And after that, we had a character go off to Summit Hall for backup on his own. So I can visually reference that, and I think that's a great idea. Um, Obviously, using the storyboard allows the players to do things like this as well. Like they can use this as a menu system to say, oh yeah, okay, this is how it worked. All right, you can see I haven't put all the information here. As I said, I'm really bad at this. I've sort of remembered all the sessions we had, but not necessarily all the information that we've had occur in them. All right, there's a better one. I'm starting to get better at it. All right. Now, obviously, the reason I'm clicking these buttons is ideally when the players come along, if WebView comes or my players pick up the player version, when they're in player mode, all right, they have a different view to what I have. So if they come over here to the World Almanac, all right, this will show what the players can view. And obviously you can see they can't actually see much. I've turned everything off except for the campaign journal. So they can come in here and use it. All right, they can come into the storyboard. You can see that there's only one storyboard for them to use, which is the campaign journal. They can then use this as a quick reference to see what happens. All right, there are links for things, and if I've made that visible to them, they can click that as well, which is fantastic. fireball spells, for example. I could link them to every single spell if I wanted, or maybe just as they learn to spell, I could make it visible and they can come here and use that system. So anyway, I'm digressing. That's basically how I think right now is a good way to um, set up this campaign sort of journal stuff. I thought about using the user notes. I like the user notes concept. I just don't think it's there yet. Would you like to save it? Yep. All right, you can see user notes really, they've only got one text area, there's no snippets, there's no ability for me to add pictures in here yet, so I think this is something that may get better. Um, there is a journal button, I'm not going to click that, that's in beta only, um, but just to show you they are thinking about it, we're just not sure what they're going to really do with it yet. So yeah, this is how I do it. Now, for any of you who are experienced watching this, you're probably looking at this going, but I don't have the option you're talking about. How the hell did you do it? So let's just go through that quickly. The campaign journal section I had to add manually. All right, if we go over to manage and categories, all right, you can see here I've added campaign journal. All right, and the way I did that is I clicked the plus button and I created it's got an unnamed one. This is a test. And here you can set an icon for it. You can set whatever you want. I literally followed Silverus and used the little phone. I kind of liked the idea of that. You can do it wherever you want. I did it under events. You can set a name, a summary, and then here you can set the structure. So you've got an overview. You could probably add a snippet definition below this one. All right, or you might want to come in here and add a snippet type. And you might come in here and go below this one, and I'm going to make this one to be text or session brief or summary or whatever you want. That will be text, and this one will be a picture if I could spell, and I can change that to picture, and I can save that. And then when I create a new journal entry, this is the stuff it's going to ask me to fill in. So you can put as little or as much as you want here. That's completely up to you. All right, I'm going to delete this one because I don't need it. What I'll do is I'll come up and have a look at the campaign journal that I've put here just to show you how I set it up. You can see I've got a session overview with a session summary text entry there. That's all I did. All right, that way every time I do it, it just asks me to fill in the session summary and I can add in things manually. Once you've created it, you click done, all right, and it saves. And then you can basically come back into your World Almanac. You'll have the option now visible, all right, and off you go. Now, another thing that I did to make this sort of neater is I changed my view. So I've gone into manage, and I think it was preferences. Yeah, navigation view. So I've done it by simple grouping and category. I used to have it by simple grouping. So just to show you the difference, if you go by simple grouping, all right, you're going to have everything grouped together, which I found to be a little bit more of an organized mess. Or you could come back and change that again. And I've gone into simple grouping or category. I need to hit done there. That obviously adds in these subcategories and just basically makes it neater. And it allows you to obviously collapse the hierarchy, making it all a lot neater for you to do. The other view that you could try is the by category. All right, and that actually takes the massive big headings out. All right, so different views, different people are going to enjoy it. But anyway, that is how to create the journal entry or the campaign journal entry, basically article type. It's got an icon, so it's easy to see. And yeah, I think it's quite a simple sort of system for you to use. Um, as I said, I think there is a lot more we can do here, and I know the developers have been discussing for probably quite a bit of time of what they would like to do. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens once the content market's out and see what they start working. But for now, hopefully that gives you some ideas about what you could be doing to sort of better manage your campaign journals. So If anyone's got another way that they think is better than this, I'd love to hear it. I love hearing your ideas. I love hearing your thought processes and seeing videos on how you do it. Because eventually, that's what this is. This is a tool that we can do things in many, many different ways. The community's coming up with some great concepts and some great ideas. And if you've got a great idea, call it out now, so we can discuss it on the forums, so the developers can get involved, and we can help sort of mold this tool into the direction we want it to go, I guess. Or just steal ideas off each other. More than happy to steal ideas off each other. So thanks, Silverus. It's certainly a great little functionality you've added here. I quite enjoy it. Anyway, guys, if you've got questions, ask them in the comments below. Apart from that, have a great night.